Hey guys, tonight we descend into the glow of candlelight and velvet shadows, where nobles whisper through painted masks and servants glide like ghosts. This isn't just a banquet, it's a carefully staged illusion, and you've managed to snag yourself a place inside the illusion's jaws. You're heading straight into Greystone Hall, a noble estate draped in luxury, blood history, and a smell that's somehow equal parts lavender and ancient mildew. You probably won't survive this, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're joining from somewhere far away, I'd love to know. Drop your location and local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge uphill beneath a moon too round for comfort, its light making the cobbles of Brighthollow's upper quarter gleam like wet bones. The air here smells of rain-hung ivy and wax-drenched torches. Before you, Greystone Hall looms, all carved gargoyles and obsidian window panes. You're not exactly invited, but you've studied the rhythm of the guards. And now's your window. You scale the side wall using the old gardener's trellis, one of those rickety constructions someone forgot to demolish after the last rebellion, and drop silently onto dew-slick stone. You duck behind a marble lion that has definitely seen better centuries and watch the guests arrive. Cloaked in black, gold, and velvet, they file through the front gates with glittering masks and laughter that doesn't quite reach the eyes. Somewhere in there is the noble family you've been tracking for weeks. Tonight you'll learn why their last 3 stewards went mad, and what they're planning beneath the feast. Inside the hall, the air is heavy with spiced meats and secrets. Massive chandeliers drip wax above your head like slow golden rain. The walls are lined with paintings of past Lords Greystone, each of them staring with that slightly judgmental look common to both oil portraits and disapproving librarians. You blend in. It's not hard. Everyone here is pretending to be someone else. You lift a glass of dark red wine and mingle with whispering nobles whose voices are warm with flattery and cold with calculation. Your boots click softly on mosaic tile as you cross the room, pretending to admire a grotesque centerpiece, a roasted boar wearing a silver crown. Typical Brighthollow excess. You remember reading about this kind of noble's feast in a half-burned ledger, courses of gilded swan, candied violets, and something called medieval aspic that sounds suspiciously like what you'd find under a fridge. A flautist plays something delicate from the balcony above. The notes drift down like the last leaves of autumn. You notice a boy, 12, maybe 13, dressed too finely for his age, his expression too old for his face. He sits alone at the end of the long table, picking at his food, eyes scanning everything. You recognize that look. He's not eating either. He sees you, just briefly. Then he looks away, stiff and proper, as if he hadn't just silently screamed for help with his eyes. You make a mental note. A woman in a crimson mask brushes past you, perfume and danger follow in her wake. "Are you enjoying the feast?" she asks, her voice sugar over steel. You nod. "Best aspic I've had all week." She doesn't laugh, just tilts her head like a bird assessing prey and glides away. A servant approaches, thin, pale, with black eyes that reflect light like glass marbles. You try not to recoil. His hands tremble slightly as he offers you another glass of wine, but his lips barely move as he mutters something only meant for you. "Do not drink the second toast." You blink. "What?" But he's already gone, melting back into the column of faceless servers moving like shadows across the edge of the feast. Historians still argue whether noble servants in places like Brighthollow were truly silent by oath, or merely trained never to speak unless ordered. Either way, you've just heard a ghost break the rules. The lights dim. A hush falls. Lord Greystone rises. He's every inch the portrait. Tall, cruelly handsome, with the kind of voice that makes you want to check your pockets. He raises his glass, and so does everyone else. But you hesitate. "This toast," he says, "is to legacy, to the blood that binds us and the blood that must be spilled to preserve us." Polite laughter follows. "Yours is fake." The boy down the table doesn't lift his glass. Instead, he watches Lord Greystone with something approaching terror. A second toast is announced. This time the lights dim further, as if the flames themselves are trying to bow out of what's coming. A new servant wheels in a massive decanter of thick, near-black liquid. Not wine. Something older. You catch a whiff. Spiced metallic. Wrong. You remember a footnote in a crumbling volume from Brighthollow's Eastern Archive. Blood feasts. Ritual meals designed to honor the line of kings by mixing wine with the dried blood of their ancestors. Sounded like Gothic nonsense at the time. But now, you excuse yourself. The hall is too full of watching eyes and spinning thoughts. Outside, in the cold marble corridor, you exhale slowly. A trickle of that strange scent still follows you, like iron and cloves. You hear muffled laughter behind the thick wood of the dining doors. Somewhere in this hall, truth is waiting. It's wearing a mask like everyone else, but you're starting to see the strings behind the puppets. And tonight, you pull one. You linger in the corridor for a beat too long. The laughter behind the doors has started to sound strained, like a play that's gone off script, but no one wants to admit it. You step back inside with your best smile fixed and your eyes scanning the room. The second toast is in full swing. Everyone's glasses shimmer with that strange dark liquid, thicker than wine, glossier than ink. Lord Greystone stands with his arms raised, delivering a speech that feels a little too practiced. To those who came before, and to the promise that never dies. You notice the boy again. He still hasn't touched his glass. His hands are under the table now, fists clenched. The woman in crimson leans close to him, murmuring something with a painted smile. He flinches. You slip into a shadowed corner near the hearth. It's one of those monstrous medieval fireplaces meant for whole trees, not just logs. A coat of arms, greystones naturally, hangs above it, with a sword and a thorned rose intertwined. You remember that symbol from an old coin dug up during one of your nighttime excavations beneath the city walls. The same coin that burned your fingers when you picked it up. Warmth from the fire doesn't comfort. Instead, it feels like it's watching you. The flames shift, subtly. And that's when you see it. A hinge, a thin seam in the stonework, right behind the fire. You've read about noble halls with secret hearth passages. It was a favorite of paranoid lords during the border wars. One mainstream account from a captured spy described crawling out of a fireplace covered in soot and secrets, narrowly avoiding the blade of a half-asleep baron. And now, here's yours. You wait until the music swells. A quartet strikes up something loud and jarring. Then you crouch, slip into the fireplace, scorching your sleeve on a cinder, and push. The panel creaks open. It's not subtle, but no one is watching. You slide into the wall. Darkness swallows you whole. Inside the hidden passage, the air is dry and ancient. Dust curls up with every step. The walls close in around you, lined with stone so old it's practically fossilized. You fumble along until your fingers graze something wooden, a lantern. Miraculously, it still holds a stub of candle. You strike your flint, 3 tries, and the tiny flame flickers to life. You're not alone. Ahead, pale light glows from an opening. You move toward it, slowly, lantern raised. What opens before you is a hidden gallery, part trophy room, part shrine. Along the walls hang weapons too strange to be ceremonial, too worn to be for show. A flanged mace engraved with names in 3 different languages. A halberd with dried rose petals still tangled in its blade. One sword sits alone on a velvet pedestal, broken at the hilt, but polished like someone still grieves its last strike. But it's the portraits that make you stop. Not paintings, photographs, faded sepia-toned, some from the early days of glass plate photography, some more recent. All of them feature members of the Greystone bloodline. Each one is marked on the glass with the same strange sigil. It looks like a stylized eye, or maybe a flame, or a mouth opening wide. You lean closer. One photo shows a man you saw earlier at the feast. He hasn't aged. You're not looking at a gallery. You're looking at a ledger of lives unnaturally stretched. There's something sticky on the floor. You glance down. A trail of dark liquid leads toward a curtain at the far end of the room. You know better. You go anyway. Behind the curtain is a small chamber, more like a vault. The walls here are covered in inscriptions, carved directly into the stone. Old High Brighthollow mostly, illegible to anyone but archivists or very nosy guests. A table stands at the center, and on it a single object, a chalice, still full. You don't touch it, but you do notice the words etched beneath it. To be remembered, one must be consumed. You back away, too fast. The curtain rustles again. The raven-eyed servant steps in. No lantern, no sound, just those glassy eyes. You tense. He lifts a finger, not in threat, but warning. Then he points toward the wall behind you. There, hidden in the carvings, is a second door, barely visible. He walks past you, opens it, and is gone. You follow, because you're not done yet, because something deeper still waits. The second hidden door shuts behind you without a sound, sealing the gallery and its ghosts back into the stone. You're in another corridor now, narrower, colder. The air smells different here. Not of old dust, but something herbal, metallic, and bitter, like crushed sage mixed with coin. Your lantern flickers, not because it's dying, because something passed by. You whirl, nothing, except the corridor walls are pulsing slightly, breathing. A trick of the candlelight, you tell yourself. You'll keep telling yourself that, too. You press forward. The passage leads down in spirals, stone steps worn shallow in the middle by centuries of use. Somewhere above you, the party continues. Faint music filters through the rock. But down here, just silence, and the steady rhythm of your own boots, until you see him again. The servant, waiting at the foot of the stairs. This time, he speaks clearly, and the voice does not belong to a servant. You are not the first to come seeking answers, but you are the first to survive this far. You swallow. Who are you? He tilts his head slightly. A guardian. Of memory, not men. Cryptic, of course. He gestures to the next doorway. Go on. You need to see it. You step through into a small stone chamber, circular, with a domed ceiling painted in flaking gold. At its center stands a single column, carved with that strange sigil again, the stylized eye, or flame, or devouring mouth. Around it, on shelves carved into the wall, rest dozens of objects, lockets, rings, torn pieces of fabric, even a single leather shoe no bigger than a child's. Relics, tokens, stories once alive. The servant glides to a shelf and selects one, an iron brooch in the shape of a hawk. This belonged to Maestra Ilara. Poisoner, midwife, rebel. She died in this house for refusing to bend her knee to blood rites. He sets it in your hand. It's cold, too cold. But your mind fills, for just a second, with images you don't recognize. A woman lighting candles, a child coughing, a blade dropped quietly into stew. Then they vanish. You stare at the servant. What is this place? He smiles, not kindly. This is where the family stores what it cannot admit. Historians still argue whether relic-holding rituals were ever more than superstition. Some say the objects were mere symbols. Others believe memories could truly anchor to physical things. One particularly fringe theory suggests that noble families like the Greystones developed ways to feed on these memories, stealing them to preserve their line. Why show me this, you ask? Because you are part of the feast now, he says simply. And then, without another word, he vanishes, melts into shadow like a figure from half-remembered dream. You don't chase him. Your legs are too heavy, your thoughts too full. Instead, You stagger to the far end of the chamber, where another narrow corridor waits. It's lit from within by firelight. You're back near the Great Hall. You slip through a low wooden door, cleverly disguised as part of the wainscoting. One final glance over your shoulder confirms it. The relic room disappears the moment you close the door. You emerge behind a tapestry, ancient and moth-eaten, depicting some vague myth about a knight fighting what looks like a lobster, but is probably meant to be a wyvern. You're in a side hall adjacent to the ballroom, and just in time. The second toast is finished, but the aftermath is beginning. A guest collapses, then another. You see them clutching at their chests, mouths stained with that dark wine, eyes wide, confused, not frightened, as if whatever's happening to them feels pleasant, which somehow makes it worse. No one screams. The music has shifted to something low and humming. You didn't notice when that changed. That's the kind of detail you miss when your brain is stuck between panic and observation. The boy is gone. You scan the long banquet table. His seat is empty. So is Lord Greystone's. But the woman in crimson? She's still here, standing at the head of the table, arms raised like a conductor. The passage begins, she whispers. The blood sings. The gate stirs. Okay. No more hiding. You step into view, toss your borrowed mask onto a platter of glazed pheasant, and stride toward her. She sees you, and she smiles. Well, she says, we did wonder which thread you would follow. You open your mouth to demand answers about the boy, the relics, the servant who speaks in riddles. But she raises a single finger, and you freeze. Literally, you're not moving. Your breath still fogs the air. Your thoughts still race. But your body, it's still as a painting. She walks around you slowly. You were expected. The city speaks of those who walk too closely to its old heart. Then, just as suddenly, she snaps her fingers, and you can move again. You gasp, and she is gone. All that remains is the sound of her voice echoing behind your eyes. Find the chamber behind the flames, or be swallowed like the rest. You've already been behind the flames, you think, haven't you? But deep down, you know there's still another layer, and the boy, wherever he's gone, is at the center of it. You race through the hall, past the fallen guests, past the still-playing musicians who don't even glance at you. The music drones on, same 4 bars repeated, as if the quartet themselves are trapped in a spell. You yank aside another heavy tapestry and find yet another hallway. Always more hallways, always more shadows. You're done being delicate. You shout the boy's name. You don't know his name, so you shout what you think it might be. Names that feel right, names pulled from somewhere deep and ancient. Thalen, Emmerich, Daran. No response. The hall curves again. You burst through a wooden door that groans like it hasn't been opened in centuries. And there, beyond it, is a stairway down. Not stone, not carved, but wooden. Spiral. Unstable. It shouldn't be here. It doesn't match the house's architecture. A fringe theory from an eccentric Brighthollow architect once posited that certain noble homes were living structures, subtly shifting based on rituals or emotional resonance. Most scoffed. But then again, no one had ever mapped the Greystone estate properly. Every time someone tried, the floor plans came back slightly wrong. This stairwell should not exist. You take it anyway. Then you hear it, singing. A child's voice, low, tired, carrying a tune older than rhyme. You freeze, then descend faster. The stairway ends in a wooden landing, one door, metal banded, no handle, just a symbol burned into the wood. You already know which one. That devouring eye. You press your hand to it. And the door opens. No creak this time. Just silence. Inside is a small chapel. Stone walls, once painted, now stained and cracked. The ceiling is vaulted and choked in cobwebs. There are no pews. Just a stone altar and flickering candles that shouldn't be lit, but are. A great tapestry hangs behind the altar, depicting a scene that doesn't appear in any holy text. A circle of nobles drinking from a central wound in the earth, while a boy in chains sings over them. The real boy sits at the base of the altar, curled up, humming. He looks up when you enter. His eyes are pale, not blind, but close. "I thought you might come," he says. "You left the feast," you manage. "Why?" He shrugs, like a child caught sneaking sweets. "They didn't need me anymore." You kneel, careful. You're part of this. The blood rites. The memory drinking. Another shrug. "They feed. I remember. That's the trade." A real historian might have scoffed until they saw what you just did. Some whispered accounts from early Greystone generations hinted at singers of lineage, children raised to remember what no one else dared to write down. Oral memory banks. Walking libraries. Some scholars claimed they were myths. Others wondered how the Greystones had such perfect records of their ancestors' sins. "I don't want to remember anymore," the boy says suddenly. "But if I forget, they all die." Your breath catches. He continues, almost dreamlike. "They feed on memory. It makes them strong. Not like blood. Blood fades. But memory, that sticks. You eat a moment. It becomes you. If I let the memories go, so do they." You glance at the tapestry again. The chained child. The singing. It's not a prophecy. It's a record. This has been happening for centuries. "Why you?" you ask. "Because I was born when the moon split." He says it like it's obvious. "That only happens every few hundred years. They said that made me special." You know the event he means. It was real. A lunar eclipse that coincided with a meteor shower. Brighthollow skies turned red and white at once. The split moon. There were omens carved into stone long before that night. People thought it marked the return of something. "They think I'm a key," he adds, "to the next feast." You feel cold. Because you understand now, this night, this hall, this entire celebration wasn't just a renewal of power. It was a transfer. They've grown tired. Their memories are too old, too full. They want to pour themselves into someone new. The boy. You. Both. You try to take his hand. You don't have to let them. He looks at you with something between sadness and serenity. "I already have." And the altar shifts. No dramatic tremor, just a breath, a movement, and suddenly, it's not stone. It's something breathing, something beneath it, or inside it, pulses. The air thickens with pressure. The candles go out. You are not alone in the chapel anymore. Behind the tapestry, something moves. You grab the boy and run. But the room has already changed. There's no door. Only darkness ahead, only darkness behind. You cling to the boy and whisper, then remember something else. Something they can't use. His whisper is dry and quiet. "My name is Roan." The first real thing he said. And with that, you fall, not physically, but everything falls away. Stone, air, light, you plummet into memory itself. You land not on stone, not on soil, but on moments. Layers of memory stack beneath your feet like leaves. Every footstep crunches with echoes of lives lived, screamed, whispered, forgotten. You stand in a space that has no ceiling, no sky, no walls. Only a sickly golden mist curling through columns that look suspiciously like spines, and floors paved in shifting shadows. Roan is beside you, still holding your hand. He seems calmer here, oddly enough. "This is the archive," he says. "The one no one's supposed to see. They only come to take." You walk forward. There's no path, but somehow your feet know where to go. Around you, figures flicker. Not ghosts. Not quite. More like living memories, replaying loops in the periphery of your vision. A woman sewing a crest into a tunic. A knight sobbing as he drops a sword. A maid pouring something thick and black into a goblet. You turn to Roan. "Why are you showing me this?" He shrugs, then adds, "Because you're part of it now. Might as well understand what they're making you into." That lands like a punch to the gut. You stop in front of a mirror. Only it's not a mirror. It's a memory of you. At the feast, eyes glazed, wine to lips, time skipping. a version of you that obeyed, that ate and danced and surrendered. Roan says softly, "They always split the visitors. One path resists, one path joins. You're still deciding." Historians have long debated the existence of memory realms in folklore. The idea that consciousness could be projected into a shared mnemonic space, typically triggered by ritual. Most dismiss it as metaphor. But one preserved gray stone letter describes a guest wandering the thought halls, where my childhood wept beside my enemy's future. You walk past the mirror. The memory of you turns and smiles. You do not smile back. Roan pulls you through a narrow arch. Now you're in what looks like a vast kitchen, but twisted, its tools stretched and warped, hanging like bones. A fire burns without heat. A table is set with meals you remember seeing on the feast table. But here they're moving, twitching faintly. This is where they make the memories taste right, Roan says, flavoring them, twisting. A roasted bird beats its wings once. You move on quickly. Down another corridor, a hall made entirely of faces. They're not screaming. They're whispering. Dozens, maybe hundreds of visages pressed into the walls like wet clay. Some you recognize from the feast, others from portraits in the gallery. One looks alarmingly like you. You pause. The face opens its eyes, whispers, "Remember me." You stumble back. Roan doesn't stop walking. They'll do anything to be real again, even use you. You pass a final arch, and there it is, the feasting chamber. Not the one in the real manor. That was just a surface ritual, a shadow. This is where the rite truly takes place. The table is massive. It pulses. It's not made of wood, but some coiled organic matter like root and tendon fused. Seated around it are memory shapes of every past Greystone noble, transparent, shimmering, yet terribly present. They eat from empty plates, drink from goblets that refill with moments. Each sip, a memory stolen, each bite, a life absorbed. They don't look up, except one, Lord Greystone. He sees you and speaks directly into your mind. You were never here by chance. You followed the thread, and now you will bind it. Roan tightens his grip on your hand. You respond aloud, "I won't be your vessel." Lord Greystone tilts his head. Then you will be his. Either way, the blood sings. A scholarly theory from Brighthollow's last banned historian proposed that noble lines once created artificial dreamers, children raised in isolated mnemonic trance states, to host the collective memory of the family, thereby extending legacy indefinitely. The theory was dismissed as fiction, but you're looking at it now, and it's no fiction. You turn to Roan. You said if you forget, they die. He nods. But what if you remember something else? Something new? Something they don't own? Roan's eyes widen. No one's ever suggested that before. You kneel in front of him, take both his hands. Close your eyes, and think of something that was only yours. He does. And then slowly, he begins to hum again. But this time it's not the chant, not the ritual, not the feast song. It's something simpler. A lullaby. You don't know the tune, but it's his. The memory space flickers. The nobles pause mid-bite. Their forms blur. The table cracks. The goblets overflow, and not with blood or wine, but light, blinding, golden, searing real. Roan keeps humming. You start humming too. And the chamber begins to collapse. No fire, no screams, just a quiet unraveling. One noble vanishes. Then another, the table buckles inward, pulled into itself. Lord Greystone screams something, but no sound comes out. You take Roan's hand one last time and run, until it all fades, and the stone chapel is back. The tapestry is just fabric again. The candles are out. The altar is cold. Roan is beside you. His eyes are clearer now. "I think I forgot," he says softly. You smile. Good. You sit with Roan in the silent chapel, and for a rare moment in Brighthollow, time doesn't rush or rupture. It rests. A stillness settles around the both of you like a blanket draped over something shivering. No whispering walls, no flickering shadows, no voices begging to be remembered. Just quiet. You both stare at the extinguished candles. Roan finally breathes. It's gone. You glance at the tapestry again. The nobles, the child, the circle. It's faded now. The reds are dull, the gold embroidery broken into threads. Where once the eye of that terrible ritual glared, now it's simply blank cloth. They'll come looking, he says. The ones who fed. They always do. You help him to his feet. Let them find ash. The path back is somehow straighter than before. The shifting manner which once seemed to fold around you like a clenched fist is still. The air doesn't hum with secrets. The walls no longer lean in to listen. Even the cursed paintings in the hall avert their gaze. You guide Roan through corridors that no longer resist your passage. Doors open. Floors do not groan. The house, if it was alive, feels stunned. In the main hall, the feast is over. And by over, you mean gone. The table has been cleared. Every scrap of food vanished. The guests, nowhere in sight. Not even the musicians remain. Just the imprint of many bodies, the faint scent of overripe fruit, and a single goblet still resting at your place. You lift it, and it's empty, but heavy, full of the weight of what could have been. Roan watches you. You chose not to drink. You nod. Then you'll carry this too. And he walks past you, barefoot, quiet. The foyer doors are wide open now. Through them, night glows bluish with the promise of dawn. You step outside and feel wind again. Real wind. No more rose-perfumed illusions. Just air. Cold, alive, biting your cheeks. Somewhere in the far distance, an owl calls. It's almost too normal. You and Roan descend the manor steps. He looks smaller out here, under the stars. Just a boy again, not a memory keeper, not a ritual key. His hand swings loosely at his side, brushing yours now and then. You don't speak for a while. When you reach the tree line, he finally says, "There were others before me. I figured. They stopped remembering. So they were emptied, made into guests, put in paintings, turned into laughter." A chill slides down your spine. Historians still argue whether the Greystone family had a hand in early Brighthollow's governance, you murmur. Some records show noble decrees written in handwriting suspiciously uniform, like a single voice ghostwriting dozens of rulers. Some even claim the family wasn't a family at all, but a chain of identities passed down through a single vessel. Roan snorts. They were lazy. They didn't want to die. Just keep pretending. You glance back at the manor. It looms in the distance, but without menace now. It's just an old house, unfed. You take the forest trail downhill. Branches brush against your coat. The leaves murmur in a language that feels more honest than anything said in that hall. You see the flicker of torches ahead. Your companions, perhaps, or townsfolk still searching for survivors. A real world again. One with consequences. You slow your pace. You're not ready to step into it just yet. Roan notices. "You could go back," he says. "Drink, forget." You raise an eyebrow. "Could you?" His mouth twists. "Maybe, but I don't want to. I want to try remembering new things." There's a funny detail recorded in a fringe Brighthollow journal. One servant claimed to have seen Lord Greystone pacing in front of a cracked mirror, muttering, "We must dream forward, not backward. Forward." Most historians interpret this as symbolic. Greystone trying to escape his family legacy, but perhaps it was more literal. You turn to Roan. "What will you do now?" He shrugs. "Walk, learn, sleep under real stars." You smile. Not a bad plan. Then something strange happens. Roan stops walking. He looks up, brow furrowed. "What is it?" you ask. He squints at the horizon. Something's humming. You listen. At first, nothing. Then, A faint thrumming, like strings plucked far away. Not sinister, not ancient, just new. He tilts his head. They're not all gone. You take a step toward him. What do you mean? He looks up at you. There's another place, one more hall. Not part of the feast, not part of the Greystones, but it's waking up. You pause. Where? I don't know yet. The thrumming stops. The silence rushes in to fill its place. A debate circles your mind like birds looking for a branch to land. Should you end the story here? Boy saved, curse undone, manor fading into mist? Or should you listen to that hum and follow? You glance back once more at the manor. It doesn't move, but you swear, just for a blink, you see a light flicker in the topmost tower. It wasn't there before. And maybe you imagined it, maybe you didn't. You walk the rest of the way into town in silence, the path widening, the sky lightening to that soft, pre-dawn gray. Roan trails just behind, quiet, watchful. The houses of Brighthollow come into view. Crooked roofs, mossy stone, chimneys coughing faint trails of smoke. A village still dreaming. You pass the old toll bridge. You pass the half-burned mill. You pass the statue of St. Anselm, now noticeably cracked along the brow. Details that didn't matter before, but somehow feel louder now. Brighthollow looks like itself again. But does it feel like it? It feels emptied, not in a ruined way. More like a glass that's been drained and placed gently back on a table. Will they know? You ask Roan, nodding toward the town. He shrugs. They always know something. They just don't remember how they knew it. The two of you stop at the square. It's completely empty. The inn's shutters are still drawn. The chapel bell hasn't rung. You'd think the town was abandoned, except for the small things. A coat hanging on a peg, a warm loaf left to cool on a window ledge, a sleeping dog curled by a barrel. Life, paused. You glance around. This isn't just sleep, is it? No, Roan says. This is what happens when the feast ends. You kneel beside the dog. It doesn't stir. Its breathing is soft and slow, like it's listening to some deep, invisible lullaby. All across the square, it's the same. Stillness, but not lifelessness. Historically, you murmur, villages affected by mass ritual events entered what scholars call cultural dreaming. Entire communities would fall into weeks-long trances, eating, speaking, even farming while technically asleep. Some believe this is where legends of the sleepwalk empires came from. Roan pulls at a loose thread in his sleeve. Sometimes they don't wake up. That's not the reassurance you were hoping for. You stand and head toward the inn. The door creaks open with the same heavy reluctance you've grown used to. Inside, everything looks just as you left it, save one detail. The mirror behind the bar is covered in a black cloth. You pull it back, slowly. The glass is fine, no cracks, no strange reflections. But scrawled across the surface, in something like soot or ink or ash, is a message. Tomorrow is the last feast. Your breath catches. Roan sees it too. His expression shifts. Less fear, more resignation. I thought we broke the cycle, you whisper. You broke a cycle, he replies. Not the one. You sit at the bar. The stool is cold beneath you. Roan stays standing. There's something under the inn. You raise an eyebrow. You're sure? He nods. It's humming again. Faint. Not like before. Not like the manor. This is newer. You sigh. You're just full of cryptic breadcrumbs, aren't you? He grins. Better than wine-soaked riddles. You head behind the counter, run your hand along the wood paneling, looking for seams or gaps. At the far end, beneath a rug, you find a trap door, so obvious you feel stupid for missing it before. No lock, you note. Because no one opens it, Roan says. Not unless they're summoned. You give him a look. I wasn't summoned, you say. He stares right at you. You were. That's not ominous at all. You open the trap door. A narrow staircase winds down, lit by a soft green glow. It doesn't smell like damp or dust. It smells like paper, old parchment and candle wax, and something sweeter, like honey. You descend. Roan follows. The stairs give way to a chamber unlike any you've seen before. Not stone, not brick, wood, but carved with impossible precision. Geometric patterns twist into roots. In the center is a massive circular table, not organic like the manors. This is crafted, purposeful. And surrounding the table are masks, dozens of them, porcelain, bronze, leather, glass, some beautiful, some horrifying, each mounted on a mannequin head, each facing inward. Roan walks up to one, a simple child's mask, painted with crude stars and a crooked smile. "I wore this once," he says softly. You approach a different one, a long-nosed theater-style piece etched with tears. "They're actors," you say, "or roles." Roan nods. The guests don't just feast. They perform. That's what the real rite is. Memory as theater, history rewritten through play. You reach out. Your fingers brush one of the masks. A pulse shoots through you. Suddenly, you're not in the chamber. You're in a field, a festival, children laughing, fiddles playing, and you're holding someone's hand, a woman, tall, cloaked. She's smiling. Then it's gone. You yank your hand back. Each mask holds a version, Roan explains. One story, one play, one lie. You swallow. So, if tomorrow is the last feast, then tonight is the final rehearsal. You don't sleep. Neither does Roan. The inn upstairs stays frozen in that strange hush, like time itself has ducked out for a breath of fresh air. You stay below, in the chamber of masks, sitting across from him at the great wooden table. Between you, the masks seem to lean forward, eager for something. You run your hand across the table's smooth surface. So, what's supposed to happen? Roan rests his chin in his hands. Usually, people wear the masks. They forget who they are. They act out some rewritten piece of history. And when they believe the lie deeply enough, it becomes real. You raise an eyebrow. And if no one wears them? He shrugs. Then the feast fails. The story starves. And the town forgets. But wrong. Holes appear. People start inventing lives to fill the gaps. That's how we ended up with the Greystones in the first place. Outside, the faint gray of morning peeks through a crack in the trapdoor above. Not quite dawn, not quite night, the in-between. You pull a mask closer to you, a ceramic one shaped like a bird's face, painted in black and gold. "This one feels heavy," you mutter. "Because it's his," Roan says. "Who?" He nods solemnly. "The original playwright, the man who wrote the first feast." You freeze. Historians still argue whether the so-called architect of the first feast was a real man, a symbolic amalgam, or even a splintered consciousness formed from dozens of village storytellers, you say aloud. But some sources name him Halloween the Binder. Roan doesn't blink. That was his name. He wore that mask, until he didn't. What happened? He saw someone else put it on, and liked what he saw more. Charming. You push the mask away. Roan doesn't reach for one. He just studies the table like it might open up and whisper the next move. "There's a second chamber," he says. "Through the back. That's where the last dress rehearsal always happens." You glance toward the far wall, where shadows gather in a gentle curve. At first, it looks like just another panel of wood, but as you approach, it shimmers slightly. You press a palm to it. It swings inward. Behind it, a circular room, stone floor, velvet curtains, a small stage with worn planks, benches arranged in perfect arcs. It's a theater, an intimate one. There's no one in the seats, but you feel watched anyway. On the stage, a single book rests on a music stand. You walk toward it. Its cover is unmarked, but the pages are written in flowing ink, dialogue, stage directions, even lighting cues. Act 1. The Arrival of the Stranger, You feel a prickle at the back of your neck. You flip forward. Act 2. The guest reveals the key. Roan steps onto the stage beside you. Each act is designed to test belief, he says. The more you accept your part, the deeper you fall into the rewritten history. And if I refuse the part? The story finds a way around you. Great. You glance toward the front row of benches. Someone is sitting there now. You blink. Gone. Nope. Not playing that game. You turn the final page of the script. Act 5, the final curtain. One remains to remember. You close the book slowly. So, they want someone to watch, not just perform. Roan's expression darkens. Because that's how the next cycle starts. A witness, a scribe, a new mask waiting to form. You leave the stage. I'm not doing this, you say. Roan follows. You already are. You return to the mask chamber, and you both stand among them once more. The masks feel warmer now, like they've been handled, chosen, set aside. Then a sound, footsteps, upstairs, someone moving. Then another, voices, murmuring, unsure. You freeze. They're waking, Roan says. You bolt up the stairs and crack open the trap door. The inn is alive. The townsfolk move about, eyes glassy, expressions dazed. They don't see you. They speak in fragments, lines from old plays, snippets of long-dead sermons. A woman at the bar recites a monologue in perfect cadence, tears falling but unacknowledged. You duck back down. They're already rehearsing, you mutter. Roan nods. They don't need the masks anymore. The story's in them. You turn to him. So what do? He walks over to a wall, taps on a hidden panel. It opens, revealing a small alcove. Inside, a lantern, a scroll, and a small box made of bone. He hands you the box. Burn this when it starts. You open it. Inside, ash, fine, white, clinging to your fingers like regret. What is it? The first feast, the real one. What's left of it? If you burn it, this version ends, for good. And if I don't? The feast becomes tomorrow, then tomorrow again, forever. You glance up at the ceiling. The inn's creaking with motion now, voices louder, the play beginning. You look at the masks, then the book, then Roan. You hold the box tight, and you realize you're already on stage. You carry the box of ash with both hands, careful not to spill a single grain. It feels too light for how important it is, like history should be heavier, denser. But no, this feels like it could slip away in a sneeze. Roan walks ahead of you, leading the way back to the performance chamber. The lantern he gave you swings from your belt, casting long shadows across the walls. Each one seems to lean toward you, listening. The masks no longer whisper, they watch. From above, the voices grow more structured, no longer mumbles and slurred chants, but distinct lines of dialogue. You hear names being spoken, some familiar, some utterly alien. One is yours, a version of it anyway. You descend back into the circular theater, only it's not empty anymore. The benches are full, not with villagers though, with figures, half-formed, shimmering. Not ghostly, exactly, more like echoes of memory that haven't quite decided if they should take shape or fade. Each one wears a mask. Some turn toward you as you enter. Others remain perfectly still, hands folded, waiting. On the stage, a woman stands alone, her back to you, cloaked, tall, hands clasped. You recognize her posture. It's the same one from your vision in the mask chamber. She turns. It's not your mother, but it's the idea of her, or someone who once played her. Her face changes as you watch, flickering between kindness, cruelty, sorrow. She speaks. Welcome, witness. You step onto the stage. Roan stays behind. Historians, you say, still argue whether the role of the witness was a metaphor for the audience's complicity, or an actual participant chosen to record the ritual. The woman smiles. Why not both? She raises a hand. The room shifts. Suddenly, you're not on the stage anymore. You're outside the noble hall again, but it's alive. Light spills from its windows. Music echoes. Guests arrive in fine clothes, laughing, unaware. A feast is beginning, the first one, and somehow you're there. Roan's voice is beside you again. This is the memory held in the ash. The figures glide into the hall. You follow. Inside, the long table gleams, platters of food, goblets of wine, and at the head, Halloween the binder. His mask is on his lap. His eyes are red-rimmed with joy or exhaustion or madness. You know what comes next. You turn to Roan. Can I stop it from happening? He looks at you, tired. Number, but you can end it. You pull the box from your cloak, hold it in both hands, and in that moment, the illusion collapses. The theater returns. The masked figures rise from their benches. They begin to circle the stage, moving in sync, like a tide of faceless ritual. The woman joins them. Her face flickers again. Roan remains at the edge, watching. You open the box. The ash stirs. You strike the lantern to life. The flame is small but steady. One by one, the masks begin to crack. Thin fissures run through porcelain and bronze. The ritual is resisting. The performance is clinging. Every memory wants to be remembered, Roan says. You upend the box into the flame. The ash catches blooms, roars into color, but not red, not fire. Blue, cold and ancient. A hungry blue that devours the shadows and exposes the truth beneath. The figures stop moving. They look toward you, not in anger, in relief. You see it now. They were never performers. They were prisoners, each mask a cell, each ritual a sentence. The flame spreads through the stage, eating the floorboards without heat. The curtains curl into nothing. The script, once resting on its pedestal, ignites and disappears without a sound. Roan steps forward. You did it. Is it gone? You ask. He glances upward. The ceiling fades. The sky appears. Real sky, night again, with the moon high and calm. They'll wake up, he says, remembering fragments. Nothing solid, just the taste of a dream they didn't like. You breathe. For the first time since this began, it feels like air again. You climb the steps to the inn. The people are there, blinking, confused. No more recitations, no more distant staring. A child cries softly. A man asks the time. Life, you step outside. Brighthollow looks older now, a little more worn, but real. Roan joins you. So, what happens now? You ask. He shrugs. Now, you decide what to remember. You look to the horizon. The sun is rising, slow and gold and sleepy. A new day. But no feast. You smile. I think I'll remember the masks, just enough to warn someone. If it ever tries to start again. Roan grins. That's the spirit. He fades a little at the edges. You blink. Wait, are you leaving? I was never really here, remember? He winks. Just a role, one that needed retiring. And just like that, he's gone. You're alone. But it doesn't feel lonely. You walk down the main road, past the chapel, past the statue of St. Anselm, now whole again. The cracks are gone. Like the town decided it no longer needed to remember how things broke. Just that they healed. You keep walking. The cobbled path under your feet feels softer somehow, as if, now that the weight of memory has lifted, even the stones can relax. Brighthollow stirs around you. Windows creak open. Morning bells chime from the distant chapel tower. Somewhere nearby, someone sweeps a doorstep, humming tunelessly. You wonder if they remember anything. And then, someone calls your name. You turn, startled. It's the boy from the feast, the one who tried to warn you with that hushed, frantic whisper. He stands at the edge of the square, barefoot, holding something close to his chest. You meet him halfway. He hands you a bundle of cloth. You unwrap it. Inside is a broken mask, the bird-faced one, still cracked from where you'd rejected it, but no longer radiating that awful heat. It's just ceramic now, fragile, silent. I found it in the street, he says softly. Is it yours? You nod. Then shake your head. Number but thank you. He smiles faintly and runs off. You hold the mask up to the light. A breeze stirs through its eye holes. You pocket it, not as a keepsake, but a reminder. The kind that doesn't ask to be worn, only remembered. You head back toward the outskirts of town. The shadows are long, but not menacing. The old pine trees swish in rhythm with the wind. It smells like damp moss and new growth, something Brighthollow hasn't had in a long time. At the edge of the forest path, you find the milestone you saw on your first night here, half covered in ivy. You brush it off. It reads, Brighthollow, founded 1323. Remade. Often. You laugh. You can't help it. Even the stones are in on the joke. You glance back one more time. The town seems to breathe. Its crooked roofs, its twisting alleys, its gently leaning towers, they all feel a little more awake, a little more real. Not perfect, but true. You step into the woods. The trees close around you, but the fear doesn't return. Instead, you walk with something like peace. There's a saying you once read, history is written by the survivors. But you've learned something else here, in the belly of Brighthollow's strange feast. Sometimes history is survived by those who refuse to perform it. You walk until the town disappears from view, until the birdsong returns and the sky breaks into full daylight, until the smell of ash on your clothes fades into earth and bark and wind. And when you finally stop, when you sit beside a stream to rest your legs and drink cold water from cupped hands, you think of Roan, of the children who recited lines they didn't write, of masks that no longer need faces. You don't write it down. Not yet. But in the back of your mind, a phrase takes shape. A story that doesn't want to be told, but needs to be remembered. And maybe one day, if someone else wanders too close to a place like Brighthollow, you'll tell them, gently, before it's too late. So now, as the curtain draws closed on our strange little tale, let your breath begin to slow. Let the shadows in your room soften. Let your body, heavy from the weight of stories, sink just a little deeper into the mattress beneath you. You're not in a feast hall. You're not beneath a chapel or staring into the eyes of a ceramic mask. You're safe. You're still you. The world outside your window is its own kind of Brighthollow, isn't it? Full of histories you didn't write, stories whispered at the edges of dreams, people who wear masks, sometimes by choice, sometimes not. But that's okay. Because you've just taken a journey most wouldn't dare. And now you carry something with you. Not a souvenir, not a secret, but a stillness, a knowing. So breathe. Let the memory of the blue fire fade. Let Roan's voice settle like mist at the back of your thoughts. And let the gentle hush of early morning cradle your thoughts until they drift into sleep. You did well tonight, traveler. You watched, you remembered, and you came back whole. Now close your eyes, forget the feast, but keep the story, just in case. Sweet dreams. Good night.